tried everything. I've gone in there as God players, girl players, multiplayer gangbangs. I fucked a polar bear. I can't help you.
The episode opens with Danny flirting with a woman at a nightclub. It's going well. He offers to buy her a drink and she accepts. However, Carl rolls up with a woman, Daisy, on his arm and introduces her to Danny and the woman Theo as his roommates. That's when it's revealed that the just-acquainted pair are actually a longtime couple. Theo says that the role-playing was actually pretty hot. They hit the dance floor as foreplay, then cut to a bare-naked boning in their bathroom. Later, Danny hears Carl playing a video game, one they both know well. Striking Vipers, a Mortal Kombat-style fighting game. Danny initially doesn't want to play, but he does. Just like anyone who loves fighting games, they have their favorites. For Danny, it's Lance, and for Carl, it's Roxette. And they both know their moves well. Later, when the sun is up, so is Theo, who hears all the noise in the living room. She comes out in time to see Danny and Carl sparking a blunt while they're still playing. She's not upset. She takes a hit and tells them to keep the noise down so she can sleep. The episode flashes forward 11 years, and Danny is a bored husband in the suburbs. He's married to the same woman, Theo. He was dating a decade earlier, and they also have a son, but he hasn't seen his former roommate in quite some time. It's Danny's 38th birthday, and a whole lot of their friends are over to enjoy the lovely afternoon. Danny is working the grill while drinking a beer, while Theo is keeping one eye on the food and another on their son. When Carl shows up at the barbecue, things are a little awkward and stiff between the pals until Carl gives Danny a gift. It's an upgraded version of the video game Striking Vipers, the one-on-one combat game they used to play when they lived together. Upon Carl's enthusiastic recommendation, Danny, even though hesitant, accepts the gift. Danny had injured his knee and couldn't stay in shape, and on the contrary, Carl remarks on his physical fitness. Still unmarried, he shows off his beautiful, much younger girlfriend to Danny. After a quickly abandoned plan to have sex with his wife and make another baby, Danny in the middle of the night sits on the couch to play a game of Tetris. Soon after, a notification pops up on the screen from Carl, inviting him to play Striking Vipers X. After some convincing, Danny agrees to play the new virtual reality game, and Carl instructs him on how to set up the fancy VR element. Essentially, you insert the game chip into the controller and hook up a tiny pod to your head, which sends your mind directly into the game. You can feel all physical sensations within the combat video game, including pain. Just like the old times, Carl picks Roxette, a slender Asian woman with icy blonde hair, while Danny picks Lance, a buff, lithe fighter. The men are mentally transported to the outdoor fighting ring, and they feel like they are actually in the skin of the people they're portraying in the game. The technology poses big questions like, what happens when you can do or be anything you want, regardless of the physical form you were born with, and how real is what you do when you are not technically your physical self? Carl and Danny confront exactly those questions when they play the game for the first time. The fight within the game starts, and Carlos Roxette starts beating on Lancey immediately, which, again, really hurts. However, instead of escalating in violence, the fight takes an unexpected turn. Lance and Roxette, and by proxy, Carl and Danny, kiss. Carl and Danny exit the game moments later, horrified that they went there with each other. It may be just a game, but they vow never to get to that passionate moment again. Of course, the fantasy and allure of the game proves too strong to ignore, especially when real life isn't quite as interesting as this particular version of gameplay. Days later, both bored with their regular routines, Carl with his vapid girlfriend and Danny with stale home life, Danny as Lance and Carl as Roxette get back into the game. Both of them feel awkward, blaming their previous encounter on being drunk. However, when they enter the game, they once again abstain from fighting for hooking up. It doesn't feel like a gay thing, notes Danny, before he's pulled out of the game by his young son, demanding attention from his mentally absent father. Soon, Carl and Danny are having a full-blown affair in the game, as their virtual characters. There's real tenderness between Carl and Danny, even though it's exclusively as their video game counterparts. Roxette lays in Lance's lap as she waxes poetic about the feeling she gets when they hook up. "The physical feeling of it is more satisfying," says Carl as Roxette, of being in a woman's body during gameplay sex. "I can't really explain it. One's a guitar solo, the other's a fucking orchestra." It's worth mentioning that outside the game, Carl does not seem to wish to live life as a woman. He's proud of his masculinity and his hot young girlfriend. It's unclear if this is a cover for some deeper issues Carl has with his assigned gender, or if playing pretend temporarily appeals, the way the role-playing situation at the beginning of the episode appealed to Theo and Danny. In real life, Theo is growing more and more insecure. Danny won't have sex with her despite their plan to have another child. Carl's girlfriend, on the other hand, barely seems to register his disinterest, instead resorting to porn when Carl says he simply won't get there in bed. Neither woman, however, thinks that there is anything weird about their partner's video game addiction or how it may be affecting their real-life bedroom behavior. Outside of the video game, the relationship between Danny and Carl also reads very much like an affair, with hidden text messages and stolen time away. Even more, Danny forgets their wedding anniversary, which clearly upsets Theo. She arrives early for their wedding anniversary dinner and sits on the bar. She is soon approached by a man, who offers to buy her a drink. Although she is somewhat tempted, she shows her wedding ring and politely declines him. When Danny finally arrives, the couple sit facing each other but can't find anything to talk about. So, it's no surprise that Theo confronts Danny about his recent behavior, saying they haven't been intimate for weeks when they're actually trying to have another baby. She isn't buying his "I'm tired" excuse anymore and wonders if it's because of her body being different after giving birth. When he assures her that it's not, she then asks him if there is someone else he's seeing. Danny denies it, swearing that nothing is going on, even as Theo begs him for the truth. That's probably because, well, there's simply no way to really explain what's going on with him and Carl. Theo tries to tell Danny she understands. It's not like Theo has never had fantasies of cheating. Theo describes the earlier interaction, where a man at a bar attempted to buy her a drink. Theo turned him down because, as she tells Danny, that's commitment. Danny knows the right thing to do is cut off his online relationship with Carl, which he does despite the fact that doing so makes both men miserable. He stashes the VR pod in the bookshelf and calls Carl to tell him that he can't do it anymore. Carl proposes to only do it every now and then, but deems it over and hangs up the phone. Carl is left feeling extremely distressed. However, in terms of bettering his family life and sexual relationship with his wife, Danny made the right move. The episode jumps forward in time 7 months later, revealing Theo is pregnant with their second child. The suggestion is that without indulging in his fantasy life with Carl on the regular, Danny was able to make it work in the real world with his real romantic relationship. Things may not be quite so simple. Danny may have cut ties with Carl's video game alter ego, but Carl is still one of his oldest friends and Theo has no idea about their secret online affair. For Danny's 39th birthday, Theo invites Carl to dinner as a surprise for Danny because they haven't been in touch in a while. However, the men act about as cagey as one would with the person they were having routine, secret virtual sex sessions with for months. The first moment they are truly alone, Carl starts telling Danny how much he misses not being in the game anymore. It turns out Carl finds normal sex boring, to the point he's even unable to reach orgasm with a willing partner in the game. He's tried all kinds of sexual stuff in there with other players and computer-controlled characters, but the only good loving he's gotten is from Danny. He lets him know before he goes he'll be on at midnight. Danny doesn't want to go, but he can't help himself but check his phone at midnight. He reluctantly gets up and decides to play the game. Danny and Carl sign on to the video game for the first time in months and have passionate virtual sex up against a building. When they're finished, not only does Roxette say she loves this, she tells Lance she loves him. At that moment, Danny's had enough. He's out of the game and back home, but he tells Carl to meet him outside the game, behind an old club, just to know if what they have is real. So, at night, in the middle of a downpour, they meet in a parking garage and decide to test things out with a kiss. However, it's quickly revealed that their sexual attraction is strictly within the game. It doesn't quite play out in the same way in the real world. When still Carl demands that they get back to their virtual relationship, Danny Denny's him, and the two quickly start fighting in a real life, on the ground. Theo picks up Danny from the police station and demands he tell her what's going on and why he was so angry with Carl. For the first time, Danny opens his mouth to tell his wife the truth, which is when the episode cuts to the future, another year and birthday later. It's another barbecue, just like the one Carl attended in the beginning of the episode. The new baby has arrived. Things appear good between Danny and Theo. Carl, for his part, has broken up with his girlfriend and got a cat instead. However, before we can think that this is just the status quo for everyone, Theo hands Danny a birthday present. The present is a matchbox. Inside is the headpiece for the game controller, which puts him back in the game, and back with Carl. Apparently, the last year allowed Theo and Danny to strike up some sort of deal. Once a year on Danny's birthday, marked with an X on Carl's calendar, both parties get to live out their sexual fantasies with other people. Carl and Danny go at it in the virtual world, while Theo takes off her wedding ring and hits a bar, cruising for guys to take her home. And that's the end. It's hard to tell if this is an optimistic ending. Did the video game save Danny and Theo's marriage by allowing them to both indulge in fantasies they may have otherwise wanted to pursue, but were too afraid to? Danny and Theo both seem happier in the flash forward, with their marriage built on honesty, if not total fidelity. And with that, the movie ends.